Hello, this is Jay.
And Jack.
Here to talk about Jay and Jack Plus, our new podcasting venture where we do podcasts about Fringe,
Games of Thrones,
Firefly,
The Married Man Show,
Jay and Jack TV,
and more.
And it's only for 1 penny for the first month, and that is awesome. So you can check that out at jayandjacktv.com. Click on the Plus feed, become a member for only 1 penny.
You can try it for a penny, 1 month for a penny.
So check it out. Hasta luego, and goodbye.
Bye.
Sixth season of the show, and on a deeper level, the entire theme of the series. So that's the sticky wicket, that area. But at the very least, you know, if you kind of go down the checklist of here are things in the finale, did you like this, did you like this, did you like this? It's not a zero-sum game.
I'm good for poster.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hi, I just wanted to know what gave you the idea to do Lost? Like, was it an inspiration from someone or something?
That's a great question, and I think that Lost was a show that came from a lot of different places. And when it started out, I think it was one thing, and it gradually became another as more brains sort of came into the process. And I think what was really special about this is Lost is the child of a lot of different creative visions. So this iteration of it started with an executive at ABC named Lloyd Braun, and he wanted, you ever hear the show Survivor? You know, the reality show?
Yeah.
He just wanted to do that show as a drama. And that idea sort of passed over to JJ and I, and we wrote a pilot, and we decided that we wanted it to be mysterious and put put flashbacks in the show. And then Carlton came in, and he started bringing some ideas. Other writers came in, other directors, so that by the time we got to the end of the first season, you know, we had probably 100 different inspirations. We liked Stephen King, we loved the Harry Potter books, we loved the Star Wars movies. So we just started drawing from all these different things. And so it wasn't like one morning we just woke up and said like, oh my God, I've got the idea for Lost. So be patient and make friends with lots of smart people, and you'll be okay.
Okay, my question is, so I started watching Lost because of a website called T-Fury. Every Tuesday when your show was, I see a lot of you guys with T-Fury shoots in here. There we go. There was a polar bear on a computer typing his little 108 clock. I bought that shirt, and then I'm like, I need to watch the show to know what this shirt means. So I started getting, second season, you start to find out what's in the hats and all that stuff. So my question is, where did the polar bear idea come from? Inspiration from it? Is it just something random off in your head?
That was a very simple one. We were on a location scout in Hawaii for the pilot, and there was no script yet. There was just an outline, so we had to immediately get on a plane and figure out. We were talking about whether or not we were going to shoot the show in New Zealand or Australia. And thanks to again Barry Johnson, who is here today, we ended up in Hawaii, which might have been a little bit more expensive, but it actually ended up being the right place. We were driving through Hawaii, and JJ and I and Sarah Kaplan, who was one of the producers on the pilot, said, wouldn't it be cool if there was wildlife on this island that is not supernatural but has no business being, on this island? And then JJ said, like a polar bear? And I was like, no, not like a polar bear. Let's talk about things that are far less awesome, and then gravitate back towards polar bear. That's how it happened.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, back in season 2 and 3, there was a lot of speculation before and after Libby was killed that possibly she had some ulterior motives, and I was wondering if there was any different backstory other than what was planned before she got killed off.
Ulterior motives meaning?
Well, I've read theories that she was like Whitmore's secret agent person. I've read another crazy one where her dead husband was on the deck that Hurley made fall down, and she was getting revenge.
In the case of that character, I think we executed the game plan that we had for her. Certainly other characters, their storylines changed based on sort of the kind of just how they interacted in our ecosphere. Speaking of ecosphere, Echo is a prime example of a guy who we loved on the show, but he didn't really want to be in Hawaii. He didn't like living there, and so we kind of wildly truncated his storyline. But that in turn gave room for us to do a lot more episodes with Michael Emerson. So those are things that happen when you're making a TV series. J.K. Rowling is completely in control of her universe. She can, do whatever she wants, but we are collaborating with a whole bunch of other people, and so, there was a very organic process of just watching actors and seeing how they reacted, and some certain actors like Emerson ended up getting more screen time. Other actors like Adewale, wanted off the show, so we wrote him out of the show. And but Libby pretty much, she kind of did everything that we had planned for her. There wasn't anything special about that. Come get a poster.
Hi there. I love Lost. It's probably my favorite show that I've ever watched, and I watch a lot of TV. If you could pick any of the seasons, all of you could join in on this question. What would it be and why?
Just in terms of sort of favorite season.
Yeah, what's your favorite?
I think it's the obvious answer is in this case the true one, which is the first season of the show, in which anybody who knows me, and there are many people in this room who I worked with during that season, was the most unhappiest time of my life. Carlton and I joke all the time about how much I was crying and all that stuff. I was really fucking crying. I'm sorry, little girl who was here earlier, but it's literally like, with the rat sobs when you can't speak, and Carlton saying, just sit there for a minute. But once we sort of moved through that and kind of went down to Hawaii and watched them shoot the raft launch, it suddenly sort of clicked in for me that, oh my God, this word loss is probably going to be next to my name when I die, and I'm cool with that. So, definitely season 1.
Big bullshit, you were still crying season 2.
And season 3, and season 4, and right before when
And then the last season, because it was over, he's crying. I mean, oh my God.
Any excuse.
I would say the first season, but just because it was so fun to be doing something that was clearly completely different, and that we had broken all the rules of television, and that it was working. We had this large, kind of a large and sprawling cast, that we had characters that had done really bad things like murder people. We had complex, intentionally very ambiguous storytelling. We had episodes that had so much subtitle, people would call it and say, that's the best episode of television I've ever read. Those, and the fact that people were embracing the show was great. And, I do remember, because when we started out, we really thought we were going to just make 12. I mean, there wasn't really a lot of support for the show, and so when Damon and I were working on those first episodes, it was like, let's just make the 12 coolest episodes of television we can, and then the ratings came in for the pilot. Now, when you're a writer-producer, like, getting big ratings for your pilot is like winning the lottery. And Damon came into my office crying and holding the ratings. Do we have to keep fucking doing this?
Winning the lottery is not always a good thing, Carl. As Lost has demonstrated time and time again.
Don't get your poster. Hi.
Yes, I love Lost too. So they were dead the whole time? No, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. It was actually, because I know that you guys had featured kids with special abilities like Walt, and even Hurley had things going on from the time he was a youth with the numbers. Was there ever a plan to flesh that out more in the show, and then you guys have to just truncate it down?
Not at all. We approached it more with this sort of Stephen King approach, which is there's really no explanation as to why Carrie is telekinetic. She just is. And so the idea that we wanted to deal with this idea of that there were people with paranormal or psychic abilities out there. Walt's one, Miles is one, certainly later. Hurley sort of manifests its own in a different way. Locke, although who doesn't exhibit supernatural abilities, there's an inclination that there's something special about this kid when Albert goes to see him. And that was the idea. We never had any intention whatsoever of explaining why these children and not others And as unsatisfying as that might be, it's probably a little more satisfying than, oh my God, you should have seen what we cooked up for you. We just, just like the outrigger, we didn't want to do it. No, this is, that was one of the things that never felt like a mystery to us. Why is Walt special? Harkening back to the first gentleman who asked the question, the answer is because he is.
And with Walt in particular, we have ran into, again, one of those practical problems, which was that, Kelly was aging much faster than the timeline of the show. So when we did the epilogue, it was, at the end of the final season of the show, that was sort of our best effort to try to kind of rope that character back into the show, because we couldn't fit him into the timeline of the series, because just, that was a practical problem.
Thank you.
Is the music, and so I was wondering how much you guys...
Michael Cicchino, our illustrious composer.
By the way, we tried to get him in a slave play at the time. he was not fine.
Yeah, I was wondering how much you guys work with him on scenes where the music is so important, like the final scene. If you guys talk to him at all about that, or?
I mean, honestly, to be fair, Michael, we would go to these scoring stages at the end. That was sort of one of the big treats, because normally we just didn't have time during the making of the show every week to go to the scoring sessions. And so always for the season finale, we would go to the scoring stage, and we would sit there and the scene would play on the monitors, and we would hear Michael's music, and we would both cry. And we would say, Michael, that is awesome.
Sounds like you're in my world now, bitch. Finally. Michael to bridge the gap. Thank you for that.
But that was pretty much our feedback, was crying.
Thank you.
Hi. So my favorite thing about Lost, if I had to pick one of my many, many favorite things, would be the writing. And the way that you guys, even when you hit rough spots, the writing was always solid. And you just creatively figured out these new things, and you made us believe it, like Sawyer and Juliet's relationship. I mean, came out of nowhere, but I was totally sold when it happened. So my question is, did each of you have a favorite character or pair of characters to write?
That's a good question, and I think that the answer that we usually gave over the life of the show, would change depending. But I think, if you really forced us to choose a favorite character ultimately, I don't know. I think that while Ben and Hurley were really great, unique voices and super pithy and smart and amazing, I think the Jack Locke scenes. And the thing is, it doesn't work like Carlton writes Jack and I write Locke. We're both writing both characters, and through Myriad, you have a scene where Jack and Locke talk to each other, and it goes back and forth between us, and that's all been processed in the room. But I think I just felt like, that central relationship of the show, and when those guys were talking to each other, that was always when it was most interesting to me, and I would also be surprised that they were saying the things that they were saying.
Yeah, I mean, they were the core relationship of the show, but like when Claire had Squirrel Baby, that was kind of awesome too.
What about you guys? What are your favorite characters, Jeff and Dan? Is it possible to even answer that question?
I'll just, it's